Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the August meeting of the Lebanon Redevelopment Commission. We'll begin, as we always do, with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, and just for notes, Dr. Taylor is unable to join us this evening, so otherwise we do have all other members in attendance. First item I have up is the approval of the minutes, and we're going to go ahead and talk about that at the next meeting.
We are. They've all been, we moved to Otter AI and they're all ready. They just have to be proofread. And there's a lot of them, but we're almost on track.
I love it.
Yeah, sorry, guys.
That sounds very technical.
Oh.
We'll that'll be another conversation.
Yeah.
Perfect. So we will go ahead and take a look at those minutes next time. So we'll move on to old business, which I do see 0 old business. We'll move ourselves on to new business. And the first item we have up this evening is the TIF annual report presentation from Baker Tilly. And I believe we have Emma with us this evening. Welcome.
Good evening, everyone. See, you should all have a hard copy in front of you, but this is the annual TIF presentation. Let's see if I can get this.
It'll catch up, probably.
It'll kick on. All right. So, there we go. So this is an annual requirement within state statute where the RDC needs to talk about the TIF budget, the long-term plans for your TIF areas, and the impact of your TIF areas on overlapping taxing units. So to meet that requirement, and to give a little bit extra, I'm going to cover TIF mechanics in case there's anyone in the audience who's not familiar with the basic calculations of how TIF works. A little different from prior years, I'm going to touch on the legislative updates, so impacts of last legislative session and kind of some of those main changes and impacts on TIF, Lebanon's TIF areas, and then finally the impact on overlapping taxing units. But for those who aren't familiar with how TIF works, let me try to zoom in a little bit, that the value of the boundaries, the values of the TIF area at the time the TIF area was created, those are not captured by the TIF area. When your TIF area is created, that value stays and is part of the base value, it's part of the assessed value of the overlapping taxing units. As your assessed value increases due to economic development, that increase, that blue triangle, is what's captured by your TIF allocation area, and that is what is converted to TIF dollars. And then once the TIF area expires, the longest term is a 25-year period, then all of that increased assessed value is released to the overlapping taxing units. In TIF areas, there are 3 terms that you're going to hear a fair amount when you talk about TIF areas and redevelopment commissions. When a TIF area is created, it really has 2 parts to it. One is an economic development area. The second is an allocation area. The allocation area are the boundaries in which you can the allocation area is the boundaries in which you collect your TIF dollars. The economic development area can be larger than your allocation area, but those are the boundaries in which you spend your TIF dollars. So in this example city, the black boundary would be the city of Lebanon. The red boundary is the economic development area, and then the smaller boundary within that is the allocation area in which the TIF dollars are generated. You can have multiple allocation areas within one economic development area, which Lebanon does have. You've consolidated several of your economic development areas into a consolidated area. And then the final term is a special benefits tax. So this is a property tax that the Redevelopment Commission has the power to levy on the tax base, which is coterminous with the city. And you've used this as a backup to a lot of your TIF bonds, primarily the ones that are payable from the industrial park, where you don't intend to use that property tax, but it's an additional layer of security, enhances the marketability of the bond. So if you hear the term SBT or special benefits tax, that is technically, it's a property tax that the commission can implement. This is a good slide for reference, and it shows the rules governing when a TIF area expires, that you have some very old TIF areas, and as you've expanded and amended and created new TIF areas, the laws governing the length of those TIF areas change. And so it's not a set 30 years or a set 25 years. So this is helpful if you're kind of wondering, why does a TIF area expire when it does? Moving into legislative updates. So the legislative session was fairly busy, as you are probably well aware. And there are some changes to property taxes that will impact your TIF collections for some of your TIF areas. And so in the large TIF report that we'll email Tanya in the morning, we have accounted for all of these changes in all of our TIF estimates. We went through parcel by parcel, and the changes I'm going to cover, we went through and looked carefully in your TIF areas to see how these legislative changes impact your TIF estimates. So the first are 1% homestead properties. So these are properties where people own the homes and it's their homestead. You can see the column for 2025, what the standard and supplemental deductions are that people currently can receive. The standard deduction is phased down to 0 by 2031, while the supplemental deduction increases to 66.7% over a 6-year period. There's a new supplemental homestead credit, the lesser of $300 or 10% of your property tax bill. And then 2 deductions have been converted into credits. So there's now a 65 and over credit and a disabled homeowner credit. Those were deductions. Now they're credits against your taxes. And then the 2% property deduction, this will impact, if you think about your some of your TIF areas that have apartments, think about your Fieldhouse TIF area that has very nice brand new apartments. Those currently don't have any automatic deductions in place. Over a 6-year period, it's phased into 1/3 assessed value deduction. So that will directly impact your TIF for those apartments that you have. Your downtown TIF area, Forza, has apartments as well, so think about that as well. So this chart just shows what does this mean for a homestead. Now, you don't really have a lot of homestead properties. There are some in your industrial park, but there's really not that many. But just if you want to think about kind of on a broader scale for what does this mean for Lebanon City generally, at the top we have an median average home value in Indiana of about $240,000. Implementing all of these changes, the assessed value over that period, holding the 240,000 constant, it's about an 8.6% decrease in the assessed value. So if you're trying to think kind of what does this mean to property values kind of across the city and homes, all else held constant, you can see what this means to the assessed value. Another piece, I get this question a lot when talking about TIF areas and the impact of the legislative changes, is that if there's downward pressure in our tax base, quite likely tax rates are going to increase. Will that help our TIF areas? And you would think potentially in Lebanon that could, because currently you don't have a very high tax rate. The Senate Enrolled Act 1 includes a provision that your TIF areas cannot capture the benefit from increase in the tax rate. So there's going to be an additional calculation next year where the RDC can't benefit from any increase in tax rate due to these new deductions being implemented. Any changes or any questions about the legislative changes before I move into your TIF areas? Or
There's mud.
I'm trying to keep it quick.
No,
for
you did
Corey.
great. It just,
All right, so in your industrial park, it was created in 1994. You see you've expanded it several times. And then because of all those different expansions, and like I mentioned, there's different expiration dates governing each of those expansions. You can see you have various expiration dates. The first is actually next in 26 is going to be the first part that part of your TIF area expires. And so that's why you can see in the estimated tax increment, there's kind of big drop-offs of what your estimated TIF looks like for your industrial park. You have several obligations outstanding that are all payable from your industrial park TIF, but you all have that special benefits tax, that property tax backup for all of these bond issues. There's plenty of cushion with your TIF. Don't intend to ever actually levy that tax, but you have that as a backup for all these bond issues. We have here an estimated cash flow that I know you all like to see. Looking at the top, we have the total revenue, so the estimated TIF, lease payments. This year, we included the sale of the Shell building, which came in last month. And then total expenses, we included debt service payments and then estimates for your annual kind of pay-as-you-go expenses. So you can see how much is left annually each year for any, one-time pay-as-you-go projects or other projects you might want to fund. The estimated coverage percentage at the bottom, this just looks at, you need to look each year at your ratio of TIF to expenses and your annual determination of whether you need to pass through assessed value. If it's over 200%, the council actually has the ability to implement a pass-through, but you're at 119%, so that's not a conversation you need to have, but we like to put that test in there just so you can see. You have several single site or smaller site developer TIF areas that, I know you're familiar with all of these, but your Scott Barrett, FiberNet, GDI, Patterson Street, New Cold, and then at the bottom, New Cold Phase 3, DA Lubricant, Ken's Foods, Waterford, Cedars at Lebanon, and Project Leap Phase 1. So several of them have bonds outstanding. Some of them, kind of the newer ones, bonds haven't been issued yet. And for your older bond issues that have bonds outstanding, some of them you've pledged 100% of TIF, caption those TIF areas to make your debt payments. Some of them you have a TIF split, so the RDC keeps a portion and a portion is used to pay debt service. Another TIF area is your downtown allocation area. There are the two colors in this is the blue triangle is your estimate from your current TIF, excluding Forza. So you're actually estimated to have an amount of tax increment this year, but unfortunately, when you factor in the new deductions, the new 2% deductions in particular, your estimated TIF from your current non-Forza development will become zero by 2028 without any additional development. And then Forza, there is a minimum taxpayer payment in place. So it does protect you, and that's why you see that kind of steady gray color. Next is your Gateway Marketplace allocation area. If you recall that these are payable primarily from the Gateway TIF, but to the extent it's short, you have pledged food and beverage revenues to make up that difference. So there is some development that's planned, and I think construction is underway for hotels. And so that should get you, once those hotels are built and can assessed and start paying taxes, that should make it so that this TIF can fully support the debt service. It supports most of it, but there is about just under $50,000 shortfall that needs to be made up from food and beverage. Next is your fieldhouse allocation area. Created in 21, expanded in 22, and this was created to finance the infrastructure and also the actual field house for the youth field house. There are a few bonds outstanding to support this TIF area. The 2020 A bonds were issued for the actual field house itself. And then there were 2 public infrastructure bond issues that are payable from available revenues of the commission with a special benefits tax backup. The field house bond issues have a income tax backup. Okay, so this is, there's a lot of colors on this chart, but this looks at all of the different sources of revenue used to pay those 3 fieldhouse bond issues. So the yellow at the bottom is the estimated TIF from the current development, what's in the ground for taxes payable 25. The gray is the estimate from the surrounding TIF area. So if you think about the kind of the hotels and the senior living facility, the dining, the restaurants surrounding the field house, that's that gray area. Oh, I misspoke. The current TIF includes the estimate for the apartments and the field house, which come online in pay 26. On top of that are the warehouses, the industrial warehouse buildings that haven't been completed yet. Layered on top of that is the company operating revenues, where they pledge $600,000 per year to help towards debt service payments. And then the 2 small colors on top are estimates for food and beverage revenues and also innkeeper's tax revenues. So when you add all of these colors together, that is the light blue shading in the background, because this chart looks at the comparison of all these revenues to those 3 obligations. And so it's estimated to, for the most part, cover those three obligations. The kind of pink color that you see shaded in the background are the estimated RDC revenues. Think of the industrial park TIF or Ken's Foods, other available TIF that you might need in a couple of years to fully make your debt service payments. And this last graph looks at the available revenues of the Redevelopment Commission. So after you've paid all of the bond issues that we've talked about, you have a loan outstanding for the Forza project, and then you paid a little bit for the Shell building this year before it was paid off, and then those little amounts that you might need to help the field house obligations. You can see there's plenty of industrial park TIF remaining after this. Last section is the impact of tax increment on overlapping taxing units. Every time you create a TIF area, there's something called a but-for test that you have to, is a finding that the Redevelopment Commission has to make. And that would all of this development have happened if you didn't create the TIF area, if you didn't use the TIF? And if you think about your field house project, that's a good example of that. All of that development would not have happened if you hadn't created that TIF area and you're using that TIF to pay those obligations. So that's that but-for test. You can't say it's really taking away from other overlapping units, because that development wouldn't have come if you didn't create that TIF area. Another point is TIF has a benefit to schools once all of that assessed value is released, once the TIF area expires. But a couple of things just to keep in mind in the conversation of TIF in schools is that a lot of school funding is levy limited. If you think about the city, when you work on your budget, that the city has a maximum levy that you're restricted by. You can't go over that amount. It's set by the state. The school's funds are also levy limited. And so even if there's an increase in assessed value, that does not translate towards more dollars. It might have downward pressure on tax rates and a little bit of circuit breaker relief, but it's not, that new dollars are created with more assessed value. There is a benefit immediately to Lebanon schools in that referendum approved assessed value or referendum approved levies capture TIF assessed value. So if you look at the tax base of the Lebanon referendum rates, it's a higher tax base because Lebanon TIF goes towards those referendum rates as well. And then lastly, that focusing on your industrial park TIF, since that is your biggest TIF area, that you funded over $22 million worth of infrastructure from just the industrial park TIF bonds. If you didn't have that TIF in place, that would have probably had to be a property tax bond issue if you wanted to do all those infrastructure projects. So that would have required an annual tax rate. That probably would have increased the overall tax rate for the city, higher circuit breaker losses, not just for the city, but to all the overlapping taxing units as well. So, by using TIF, you're really keeping taxes lower, and that you chose to not capture all the buildings within your industrial park. So you had immediate benefits to the overlapping taxing units for which buildings are or are not within your industrial park. And finally, you don't capture that much personal property. And so that's another immediate benefit, is that if you think of the buildings in your industrial park, you only capture a couple personal property parcels, not that many of them. So that also has an immediate benefit while the TIF area is still in place. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Any questions from the commission? Great.
Yep.
Emma, thank you very much. I know it's been an interesting year, so keep you on your toes. Good deal. All right. So that covers item A under our new business. We'll move on to item B, which is a facade grant request. And this is Mr. Derek Warren's going to give us some info. Property address 207 East Washington Street.
Correct. Excuse me. 207 East Washington Street is the old First Baptist Church. So nothing exciting, no real pictures to show you tonight. This grant application is for a key component of the building, excuse me, to keep water from destroying it. Gutters. Gutters are extremely important for all these buildings. So tonight there is 2 quotes for gutters and downspouts. The first one is Richmond Exteriors. Gutters and downspouts are $9,595, which is the low estimate. And KRM Enterprises at $11,295. So this application still falls within category 1 of estimated improvements of $0 to $40,000. Owner share is 25% of eligible cost and a maximum grant of 75%. So 75% of the $9,595 low bid is $7,196.25. That is the recommendation for the award, and the owner's responsibility is $2,398.75.
Thank you, Derek. Any questions from the commission for Derek?
I guess I got one. Derek, I know we have, it's eligible for 75%. Seemed like it's less than $10,000. It seemed like to me we ought to be sure. And I know we can make a change if we want to. I just think that the owner ought to put a little more skin in the game for, if it was $20,000, it'd be different, but we're looking at only $10,000.
Gotcha. I'm just presenting what is in the resolution that you all passed.
I mean, I mean, we sat down and had a discussion about these different tiers, and we set the tiers based on feedback. I think, the other conversation as you bring up skin in the game, I mean, the reality is these buildings are not the cheapest buildings in the world, right? So when we talk about skin in the game, we're talking about anywhere from typically 250,000 to $1 million plus of skin in the game to purchase the building. So in this particular one item, yes, it's a 25-75 split. But as you look at the overall and what we require of our historic district downtown and of those building owners, it's a relatively small impact, I guess is the best way to put that. So that's just my.
And there's a cap on how much each building can receive, correct?
Correct. So each building is capped. Derek has really good records on that. In fact, I think we have some buildings that may be capped that may be a different discussion, but yes, each building through the resolution is capped and is tracked thoroughly through the department. So,
And I will add that I've mentioned it before, each application builds upon the last one when you get into multiple applications for one building. So they will most certainly, as they start to move through some of the other projects, start to get into some other categories that will increase their owner's share. I think one small project that's on the list.
They gotten any other approvals from us yet?
Yes, they have. Yep. May 8th of 2023, they had a masonry restoration application here, and the project cost was $23,688.39. So they're already building upon on the last one, and when they come to us for windows at this building, it will certainly put them into a bigger category.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
yeah, so if you look at the bottom of the staff report we received, Derek notes that 23,000. So grand total, if we put this in with it, we're looking at a total project cost thus far on the building of, basically $34,000. Because that was the project cost, not our grant, correct? In the previous, that 23,000 was the total project.
Correct.
Yeah, so total projects to date would be including this at, call it 33,000. So.
And the owner of the building is here tonight. If you have any questions on what they've done so far, the investments that they've made into the building outside of what's eligible. So,
What's the plan for the building?
Well, let's have real quick. I see Mayor Gentry wants to say something, and then we'll have the building owner as well.
Yeah, just a quick question. I do want to really highlight the reason we have structured the facade grant program this way is because I understand your comment, Dick, about having the building owners having skin in the game, but it really, we care about preserving the buildings, right? So the buildings may have different owners over the years, but the biggest thing from importance from the city standpoint, for the Redevelopment Commission standpoint, is that we want to save the buildings. And so certainly on these projects that are, masonry work, gutters, keeping water out, like these are very important, certainly just from a preserving the building. Because I think we've also unfortunately had cases where the building owner didn't do anything and we had to demolish the buildings, right? So I think I understand where you're coming from of, hey, there needs to be a partnership, and I agree there should be. But from the city's perspective, we're kind of owner agnostic, right? We care about the building itself, and that's what we want to make sure we preserve. So that's why we structured it that way. So thank you.
Thanks, Mayor. And you want to hear from the building owner a couple of questions, right?
Yeah,
Kind of what's going on, what it's doing.
What's the plan with the building
Are you?
that they're doing?
Oh, I thought you objected, Derek. You just objected to him having your water. Got it. That's fair.
I'm Robert Trainum. The building is mainly going to be used for, we're calling it the Boone County Multipurpose Center. So we're going to have teachings and helping the community just to get through some of the hardships to help people in the community. We have plans for different things of the building for the community. Pretty much that's it.
Is it residence or just
We will have,
classrooms?
there will be apartments, 5 units upstairs for workers that work in the building, which would be me included, me and my wife. So whoever's going to be working in the building would have hands-on in the building itself. Yeah.
Step one is making sure the building can drain water away from the foundation, right?
Water right now, intrusion is a major problem in that building. So, and I know it's, we do want to preserve the building as much as anybody, the outside especially, but the inside, we can't even move forward inside until we get this tackled. So, and the renovation inside is going to be about $5 million. So we're looking at a major, investment in the community.
That's a little skin.
Just a little.
Any other questions from the commission? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion to award 719625 as recommended by staff.
We have a motion to award the staff recommendation amount. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify with an aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. That does carry. Thank you very much. And step one's in the books. Well, maybe step two. Perfect. So that takes us on to C, Resolution 2025-04. This first step here for us of our 3 resolutions tonight is amending the declaratory resolution for the consolidated under the New Cold project. And
Catherine.
perfect. So Catherine Fenella is going to give us a little bit of a recap of what we're looking at here.
All right. So as you mentioned, this is an amending declaratory resolution. In the latter part of last year, the New Cold Phase 3 allocation area was actually created for their Phase 3 project. And that will allow us to capture the incremental real property tax. Here, we are designating New Cold Propco LLC as a designated taxpayer so that the city can capture incremental depreciable personal property. Emma mentioned this in her presentation. We are able to do that on a limited basis, but because this is a warehousing project, I guess we would call it, we are allowed to do that under the statute. You can't do it for retail or various commercial. It has to be industrial warehousing type projects. So we're basically just doing that because New Cold is requesting the city to issue some economic development revenue bonds payable from TIF. So this is the first part to make sure that we are capturing all of the TIF that can be applied to those bonds.
And I guess from my knowledge on this too, from a personal property perspective, I mean, the reality is that's, the larger dollars that we're talking about in this type of a development. I mean, it's, the building's great, but there's a lot of the personal property that goes into it.
That is correct. Emma, since she's here, I'll put her on the spot if she needs to answer those questions, but they've prepared a feasibility study with respect to the numbers. So that is a significant portion, and we would want that here since these are going to be TIF-backed bonds.
Right.
And they're not backed by the city in any way. They're just going to be payable from the tax increment that's generated from the Phase 3 project.
Gotcha. Okay. Any other questions from the commission? All right. So Rob, do we need to read in? Or
I think commission members, Mr. President, the key for this again is this is Phase 3. And so New Cold has done this, 2 previous times. All this is amending, as Catherine indicated, the resolution that was previously adopted, I think, is I'll hit some of the highlights. I think would be the commission is hereby finding that the area resolution is amended to include the designated taxpayer amendment. And it finds that the designated taxpayer amendment will further the 2024 consolidated plan that this commission approved at the year end last year. It will be a public utility and benefit to amend the area resolution as provided by the designated taxpayer amendment, and to continue to develop the 2024 consolidated area. And this commission finds that the public health and welfare will be benefited by the designated taxpayer amendment. And this commission finds and determines that the designated taxpayer amendment is reasonable and appropriate when considered in relation to the area resolution, as well as the 2024 consolidated plan and the economic development purposes set forth in Indiana law. And so this commission finds that the area resolution, as amended by the designated taxpayer amendment, conforms to the comprehensive plan for the city. And we could go on through here, but there's a lot of legalese. I think if the commission approves this, what will happen next is we'll have additional meetings that will be before you to talk about the bonds that New Cold is seeking approval from this commission that follow a similar path, again, that this commission approved in phase 1 and phase 2. Well, it'll be a bank purchased bond that will be solely paid from TIF.
Thank you very much, Rob. Any questions from commissioners? Perfect. So I would entertain a motion on resolution 2025-04.
I'll make a motion, we approve resolution number 2025-04.
Got a motion to approve. Do we have a second? We've got a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify with an aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. That motion does carry. Move on to then our second resolution, which is 2025-05. This is a declaratory resolution establishing an economic development area. And I think Mr. Bontrager is going to talk to us about this one.
Good evening, RDC members. I'll just do a really brief introduction on this, and then I'm going to turn it over to John from Spectra to give a little bit more background on the project and the need for the TIF and how it's going to be supported in this project. So this is a single site TIF to support Spectra's multifamily project. The project is maybe a bit unique. It's not completely unique, but a bit unique in that there is a public road that runs through their site, and then also utilities that would run through their site and serve areas to the north. So there is a fairly significant public infrastructure investment as part of the project. Given that this is a multifamily development who's targeted towards workforce and workforce housing and something that's a little bit more affordable where we have high construction costs right now, the TIF really is helping offset some of that public infrastructure investment to help make the project meet that target and of affordable rental rates. So that's really a quick background. John will go in that in a little bit more detail. As I mentioned, this is a single site TIF. It is a developer purchase bond that's being proposed here. What the process starts with is what it is tonight is just to establish the EDA, and then there will be multiple meetings moving forward to set up the bond and the structure of the bond. So this is just establishing the EDA, first step in the process as we move forward. This obviously comes back to the RDC with more detailed information about the structure of the bond and how we'll do moving forward. So that's a real quick background on this, and then introduce John from Spectra to talk a little bit more about the project itself. And he does have a little bit of a presentation for you.
Thanks, Ben.
Thanks, Ben. Thank you, everyone. Very brief presentation. It's just an overview here. Is it automatically going to come up, or do I need to do something? Perfect. So again, I'm John with Spectra. I think you guys are already familiar with the site that we're talking about, but the piece of land that we've got is on 300 North, just a little bit west of Highway 39, about 15 acres. The project is a total of 230 rental units. It's comprised of 210 more conventional multifamily garden style-ish units, and then 23-story row homes that will also be for rent, and about a 5,000 square foot clubhouse as it's currently designed. So I wanted to give a little bit of an overview of the conceptual site that we've got right now. I shouldn't say conceptual because this is pretty well set.
You do have to kind of reorient yourself because I had to fit it on the slide the right way. So north is actually on the left side of your screen, 300 north running up and down on the left side of your screen there. So the row homes, the 3-story row homes will be on 300 north. And then we've got 7, mainly 3-story, but some 2-story factored in there. More conventional multifamily type units separate from the row homes, and then the clubhouse on the west portion there at the bottom of your screen. Give you a little bit of a flavor of typical type layouts that we would typically do in a project like this: the 1-bedroom, 1-bath, garden style, a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, garden style or flat unit. One thing that we also do that's a little bit unique is we have a 1-bedroom and a 1.5 2-story rental unit, and then a 2-bedroom, 2.5-bath, 2-story rental unit. Again, this is separate from the row homes, which probably can't see that, but give you a little bit of an idea. The row homes do have a garage area. So first floor is garage space and some storage space. Second floor is focused on living area. Third floor is focused on bedroom and sleeping areas. So give you a little bit of a insight into the project and why this TIF component is important to this project. As Ben had mentioned, there is a lot of infrastructure associated with it, with the roads that run from 300 north down into the new Lennar development to the south. We've got water and sewer extensions that go through there and provide water and sewer to the north. We also have a pretty extensive off-site revamp of the legal drain to the north, across 300 north as well. So how it fits in the total capital stack, which is important, we estimate that the bonds will provide about $3 million or so in total capitalization to the project, which, as Ben had mentioned, it does help offset some of the increasing costs associated with development, construction costs, interest costs, labor costs. We could go on, but I think you guys are familiar. The other piece is, again, as Ben had mentioned, is the TIF component it's a vital tool. It's a key importance to kind of battle some of the rising housing costs that we've seen kind of in Boone County across the board. So I want to paint a couple pictures here, and I think it goes to what Ben had mentioned is we see pricing in the housing market, whether it's rentals or whether it's home ownership, it's just becoming out of reach for a lot, and that's where we want our project to be able to target. Pulled some stats here, and I wanted to put together a little bit of a few scenarios for you, just kind of to ponder. In Lebanon, median home price is about $350,000 from what we had found, which is about over 15% increase year over year, which is way outside the national average. Boone County, and this actually was very surprising to me, average listing price or median listing price is about $430,000, but the average sale price or median sale price from those listings is about 18% higher, about $515,000. So what things are getting listed for, they're getting offers quickly, and they're selling them fast and way above what listing price is. So I took some of this information. I wanted to just kind of paint a couple scenarios, just kind of demonstrate how some of this home ownership has really come out of reach and continues to be part of an issue. You look at that $350,000 as a sale price, assuming that a family's got $70,000 to put down on said property. They're still looking, after taxes and escrows and all those things, at a monthly payment of about $2,500. That's not including utilities or anything of those sorts. If they don't have $70,000, which is a big number, and they can come up with $17,500, still a big number, that actually increases the cost over $3,000 a month. You look at some of those numbers at Boone County, you start to get $3,000 a month, $3,500 a month, and those are assuming very big down payments of nearly $100,000 or more. Outside of that, you start to approach $4,000 a month. It's just become very high for home ownership, which is where there's been a lot of demand and people turn to rental markets. Looking at some of the competing properties and what's taken place, there's been a lot that's been built in Boone County, mainly in southern Boone County, in the Whitestown area from an apartment standpoint. Boone County is itself, on the 1-bedrooms, they average over $1,550, $1,560. Whitestown, southern Boone, Whitestown, Zionsville area is a little bit higher than that. Where we see our project, Paddock Place, being able to really support those rents, it's a meaningful discount to that, to what those averages are that you're seeing mainly again in Whitestown area. 2-bedroom is actually even more dramatic, with rates being closer to in the high 1800s, where our project is and what we see being able to support it is in the mid to high 1700s from a rental standpoint. So I'll kind of wrap this up with, this is a similar type project that we just are wrapping up construction right now. It's in Cumberland, Indiana, so just a little bit east outside of Indianapolis. Similar, you can see some of the design concepts that we took a little bit from. There's definitely going to be some differences. The project here in Lebanon's got some more stone and some more things along those sides, but the goal here is to try to provide a good product, good quality, safe, enjoyable place for the residents and the growing workforce to be able to live and enjoy at an attainable price that's realistic and can actually be achieved. That kind of sums it up. Is there any questions I can help answer for you?
Thank you very much, John. Just because I didn't capture it for the record, can I get your last name?
Sure. John, it's Petlik. Last name is Petlik. Petlik.
Thank you very much.
You bet.
Commissioners, any questions for John? Thank you very much. You want to go ahead and read it in, Rob?
Yeah, commission members, I'll hit the highlights of resolution 2025-05. Again, this is the first step in the process. Exhibit A is the economic development area that is attached here too, and that you saw a little bit in the slide deck. And that's called the Paddock Place Economic Development Area. Exhibit B is the economic development plan that you've seen. And so the commission finds that the economic development plan for the area promotes significant opportunities for gainful employment of its citizens, attracts a major new business enterprise to the city, retains or expands a significant business enterprise existing in the boundaries of the city. The plan for the area cannot be achieved by regulatory process or by ordinary operation of private enterprise without the resort to the powers allowed under Indiana law. And that's the discussion of setting up the economic development area and the allocation area. The public health and welfare will be benefited by the accomplishment of the plan for the area. And it will be a public utility and benefit as measured by the attraction or retention of permanent jobs, an increase in the property tax base, and improved diversity of the economic base and other similar public benefits. And it conforms to other development and redevelopment plans for the city. And again, the map in the area are referred to as the Paddock Place allocation area, and it is also designated as an allocation area under Indiana law. And this resolution shall be in full force and effect upon its adoption.
Thank you very much, Rob. So we are read in. We've answered, I believe, all the questions. Any additional questions?
What is the next steps process? When will we see more information on the amounts actually having to be bonded or paid off? Because you mentioned 2.9, what was listed in here, I think is 5.8. So there's a little bit of difference there. Just trying to figure out what those next steps are and when we'll see more information on the project rollout.
Yeah, we have a draft timeline. So the next step would be to circulate with Baker Tilly's updated feasibility study to this commission. They'd be able to walk through it. Presumably, it could be as early as maybe the next meeting or a special meeting we'll have. Again, the process would be to come here back to the Redevelopment Commission, and then we go through a process that would need to go through the Plan Commission, to the council, come back to this body. So we still have several meetings. We can circulate a draft timetable. We have one prepared. We'll have an economic development agreement also that would be under consideration. So realistically, Catherine, what do you think? 60 days, give or take? It would be. Yeah. So you're going to see more information that'll be related to the financial
And
side
there's a
of it.
significant amount of off-site infrastructure being constructed with this as well to service the whole area. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah, I think Ben's got those details for us.
They do have a legal drain reconstruction that is off-site, but it's primarily running the public utilities through their site to be able to serve areas to the north that's part of this discussion. So the water and sanitary sewer that runs through their site serves, I guess it's a Spring Creek development that would be north of this on the other side of 300 North.
Is there a target workforce that we are trying to capture for this or to try to create housing for?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's this is kind of as you hear a lot of people talk about the missing middle housing and trying to hit the people that are in kind of around median income and either 20% below or 20% above the median family income in Boone County. There's not a lot available that hits that price point, but it could be workforce that works at Eli Lilly around the corner. They've got a significant number of manufacturing jobs that will be at LP1 and LP2. That will be making $25 an hour. This would be a perfect target for somebody like that. But another thing, just kind of backing up a little bit, the Boone County housing studies suggested we're going to need 2,000 to 2,500 housing units to be constructed in Boone County every year for the next 20 to 25 years. So this is something that fits into that larger puzzle of what's going to be needed in Boone County over the next 25 years to service just general needs in Boone County, but also what the LEAP district does to our demands.
And there's been discussion about 20% pass-through or this only utilizing 80% of the TIF.
Yeah,
when would that discussion be?
That will come at the next phase when it's back at the RDC, the structure of that bond. Yes, what we've talked about with Spectra was dedicating or pledging 80% of the projected increment to the bond, which means there's 20% that would come to the RDC.
Yeah, I just want to be clear. This step is only approving the economic development area, the allocation area in the plan.
Perfect. Other questions? Good deal. So with that, I would then entertain any motions on Resolution 2025-05.
I'll make a motion, we approve resolution number 2025-05.
Motion to approve. Do we have a second? Okay. And a second. All those in favor, please signify with an aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. That motion does carry. Thank you very much. And our last resolution of the evening, this is going to be Resolution 2025-06, which is the completion and sale of the Lebanon Shell Building.
Well, I guess the title of the agenda item pretty much tells you all you need to know about what we're talking about tonight. We have been able to negotiate a sale of the Shell Building out on State Road 32. It's been a trying process, to say the least. And actually, the building isn't done, but we've already closed on with the purchaser, who is Wilhelm. Wilhelm is one of the partners on the Eli Lilly Medicine Foundry project. And initially, they were looking to purchase this building to use as kind of a Wilhelm North, if you will. It wouldn't be their main headquarters, but almost like a north side headquarters for Wilhelm. And now actually they're working with Eli Lilly essentially to turn this building into temporary offices for foundry employees. So not construction employees, but actual Lilly employees that they will be hiring to work at the foundry. They will be housed here for the next 2+ years while their final home is under construction. So they will actually construct a full second floor in that building and turn it to 100,000 square feet of office with associated parking for Lilly hopes up to 400 employees. I don't know if they have enough space for that many parking spaces, but they'll see how many they can get there. But that's the goal for Lilly, is to be able to get up to 400 employees in that space temporarily while their final home is under construction. I think then Wilhelm will be looking at how they might use it for their own purposes in the future. So in terms of the the sale of the building. Greg Marks wasn't. I told him he didn't need to be here tonight. He was our GM development, was our development partner on the building. And in a call we had with him and Rob and his team a couple of weeks ago, Greg said that this is the first shell building sale that he is aware of in state history where the RDC made a profit. So we were able to sell the building for roughly $5.7 million. After satisfying the bank loan for the construction and paying all the broker's commissions and everything related to the sale of the building, there's a little over $900,000 that was proceeds that was returned to the RDC. It was actually deposited last week. Of that, we estimated that the RDC over the last few years paid about $400,000 worth of interest. It's probably a little bit less than that because it was based on the actual loan amount that was being used at the time. So it's probably a little less than that, but we're guessing around $400,000, which means that there's about a $500,000 of profit going back to the RDC on the sale of the building. And it's definitely to a user that we were happy to negotiate with. So that is a good deal. Even though it took us a long time to get there, we were able to sell the building and make a profit on the sale. So with that, answering questions, but really this resolution, because the sale occurred before, as part of the build, operate, transfer process at the end of the construction, it transfers back to the RDC, but we sold it before the transfer took place. So essentially what this resolution does, it just does the final I dotting and T crossing on that transaction that took place before the transfer took place. So with that, be happy to answer any questions.
Good deal. Rob, do we want to go ahead and read it in? And then if there are any questions, we'll follow up with that piece.
Yeah, thank you, Commission members. This resolution 2025-06, again, is a resolution of this body regarding the completion and sale of the Lebanon Shell Building. As you may recall, this goes all the way back to February 2021, so it's been a while here. What we're doing here, Ben summarized it well. Again, this is a very unique situation here, but so what we're doing is we've memorialized in the recitals the whole BOT process that we embarked on over the last few years. And this resolution is just confirming receipt of the $912,217.30 from the developer's sale of the project, and directs the clerk treasurer to deposit such monies in the accounts of the commission in accordance with Indiana law. And then the president and any other officer of this commission is authorized to take any other action that's necessary to complete the transaction. Again, I just want to remind, in this process, it was anticipated under the BOT agreement that this body, the commission, would then take title to the property. It just so happened that the sale occurred right before that was to happen. Very unique, as Greg Marks indicated, in all the deals that he's done over the years. So this is one of the, kind of the good situations that we find ourselves in. So.
Thank you, Rob. Any questions from the commission for either Ben or Rob? Good deal. I would entertain a motion then on resolution 2025-06.
I'll make that motion. To adopt resolution 2025-06.
Just any motion. We're just going to approve it. Yes. So we have a motion to approve 25-06. And a second. All those in favor, please signify with an aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. That motion does carry. All right, commissioners, thank you very much for that this evening. I believe the only thing remaining on our agenda then would be to pay our claims. So any questions, or I would entertain a motion. Got a motion to pay the claims. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify with an aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign. That does carry. And the favorite one of the evening?
Make a motion, we adjourn.
We've got a motion to adjourn and a second. All those in favor, please signify with an aye. Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you very much, commissioners.